I'm James Kirk.
I'm Michi Hoyer.
And you're watching simnews.tv. I'm James Kirk.
I'm Michi Hoyer.
And you're
Hello and welcome to the 2019 GPVWC Formula Challenge, coming to you today from Melbourne, Australia. My name's Mike Bell and joining me today is David Carter.
Hello everybody, good evening, and it's an absolute pleasure to be back. 2019 has now officially started and I am so excited for the whole year ahead.
Indeed, as we're just about to start the qualifying here, we have had a bit of rain in the practice leading up to this, so we've got a bit of an interesting scenario right here where there's a slightly dry line on the track, so times are only going to drop all session.
Yeah, I'll say so. It actually rained when 7 PM. We all started off on the wet tyres and the inters. Now most people are intermediates, but it's going to get drier as the session goes on. So it's up to 81% wet at the moment. People now just leaving the pits for the first time, but expect the track to get quicker and drier as the session unfolds in this 15-minute session.
Indeed, so expect times to be dropping the whole time. Let's see if we can get an onboard. The first driver out of the pits is Adrian Campfield. He's driving for TSA with Apex. Just find him on my screen again. Here he is. He's coming through the turn 5 section now and along Albert Road to turn 6 and 7. Which is the end of the first sector, which in the wet is going to be especially tricky, and the dry is a pretty key corner as well. Now on the run down through the long turn 8 towards Clark, which is turn 9 and 10. Yeah, very sharp chicane that properly tightens up after the first apex. Key to get a good run out of here, and on the long run down to probably the trickiest part of the course, turns 11 and 12. 11, not so horrible, but turn 12 is where the nasty corner is. As you go in through the left, and then mind the big bump on the right, and then mind the exit curb, and get a good slingshot out onto the run down to Ascari, which is turn 13. 90 right here, again tightens up on exit. Campfield just shuts is actually able to use his DRS, so that means the track's drying pretty substantially as he comes around now into turn 15 and 16 to start his first flying lap. And with 3 DRS zones here, it's going to see a lot of moving and shaking during the race.
I was going to say, it's 3 DRS zones here, so obviously down the main straight, obviously down towards turn 1, you've got DRS then, and out of turn 2, which Campfield's just got to go into now, turns 1 and 2, I've DRS again, going out of there. There's Sven de Vries has just entered the race, actually, which is interesting development, but also out of turn 12, there's a 3rd DRS zone added for this season as well. Going down that back straight out of that tricky left-right chicane as well. So it's going to be interesting development to see how the racing unfolds with that 3rd DRS zone active this evening.
Yeah, certainly he's going to give lots of room for overtaking as Campfield has gone through the first sector. It's a bit off of the dry weather pace as you expect from the wet, but is so far the fastest man through sector 1. In towards turn 9. One small rule change that has come into effect this season is now the track limits on corner exits. You're allowed to now use the exit curb. There's a bit more leeway, so they should be able to push a little bit harder, but in the wet, the aim of the game is still just staying on that dry line, because that's where the time's going to be found.
It is indeed, and I think that'll flex up the racing as well a little bit, because now there's less limitations now, so hopefully, obviously lap times will be fast, but hopefully we'll be seeing more good racing because there's more flexibility now for the drivers to express themselves on the racetrack, so it'd be good to see how that unfolds during the season ahead for everybody.
Indeed it will, as Adrian Campfield coming around now to finish his first lap of qualifying and to set the provisional pole. A 136.9. So again, we're expecting times to tumble down. Maybe if it gets dry enough into the high 33s. Bone dry, but Adrian Campfield setting the pace at the moment, followed by two, I think it's fair to say, of the championship favourites, along with Adrian Campfield and Jonathan Holmes and Sandeep Singh. Both, Sandeep putting in a good showing last year, and Jonathan Holmes, obviously a big name coming back into the series, has performed well in, I think it was 2014. This was won by Super League title contender from last year, Peter Burlack.
He was in 2016 as well. He had a great showing there as well. Didn't do the full season, but still was very competitive. So, like with Jono and a lot of names you'll see as we run down the grid and all the new teams as well this year, it does look to be a really, really exciting season and a very colourful grid as you see with a lot of deliveries this year as well. But a lot of teams, obviously some of you out there who's watching would have seen before. Others are brand new and never raced before. So it's going to be an interesting season, see how the season develops. And just looking at the chat, there's 64 of you watching on our YouTube page. So hello and welcome to you guys tuning in at home. And I hope you really enjoy the broadcast. And if any of you got any questions or any comments or any predictions, just feel free to express yourself in the chat.
Hopefully we're going to get some interaction. But back to the circuit, and currently we have purple sectors coming in from Jonathan Holmes and Sandeep Singh as they both look to topple Adrian Campfield, who's pulling back into the pit lane, going for another set of tires and then going back out. Here comes Jonathan Holmes. His Sector 2's not been that impressive, but he put a killer Sector 1 in, and he goes, provisional pole by Sandeep Singh, and Menno Klont has also jumped up. So that's both of the Crossfire competition drivers up in the top 3 provisionally.
Yeah, putting a lot of work this season. It's pre-season and a lot of testings happened. So, and that's not just with Crossfire, but a lot of the other teams as well. I've been on the server a lot, watching people testing. It's literally people putting hundreds and hundreds of laps around around Australia and a lot of the test tracks as well. So, a lot of preparation's gone involved for a lot of these guys. Now it's just to see what happens in a race event situation now.
And indeed, a whole winter's worth of testing is all. There seems to be some struggle going on the track. That's the two KC Racing esports cars of Sandeep Singh and Miguel de los Rios. Don't know if they came together, but they were certainly both slow and slow and recovering. So not the best of starts for them. These conditions are going to be treacherous as drivers are going to be going faster and faster all the time. But when the point does come that drivers are going to want to try and switch onto those slick compound tires, they're going to need to get back into the pit lane, which, of course, David, was still going to be it's still going to be soaking wet.
Oh, it's going to be treacherous. Very, very difficult to get out of the pits. But I'd say once they're on the dry stuff, they should be absolutely fine. And getting heat in those tyres as soon as possible.
Right now, the highest placed driver at the moment on the slicks is in 12th place, GPVWC stalwart Terence Grech. He's driving also for TSA Racing with Apex, the same team as Adrian Campfield. As he strays off of the dry line a bit, and you can just see how there's no grip out there, and it drags him straight into the wall. In front of that's Sven de Vries in behind as a late addition to the Formula Challenge grid. Look for him to be doing well, because that's what Sven de Vries does. He shows up and performs.
Oh, he does, and that's a very much a last-minute signing as well. So Sven's come in, and I think he's simply going to rock the boat, I think, regarding the pace and the front runners, So I don't know how much practice he's had, but he's probably going to solidify the team and will be definitely one to look out for as this event unfolds.
Indeed, he will. Another man to potentially look out for, and noted by many as a pre-season interest, is David Krupa, driving the beautifully liveried Mouse 1 car, currently sat in 6th place in the times. He was one to keep an eye out for last year. Always had an interesting race and was usually really quick. So if he can put a whole season together, he could be there in the frame at the end.
Sven de Vries goes provisional pole by 200ths of a second as well. So as we literally just said, one to watch out for, and there he goes, puts in the performance straight away in that number 93 car as he goes out of turns 3 and 4 and now turn 5. But I'll tell you, a few other guys to look out for actually in this event, I think. People they haven't seen before as well. People like Hayden Rhodes for the brand new Mad Otter team as well, the Mad Otter ICMRS team as well. He took part in the Academy Series and really strong, as well as Saracino as well, who's currently in P9 as well. They're two guys. He's driving for the GPVWC Academy team, and they was two guys that looked really competitive in the Academy Series that happened before this season starts. We've had a couple of those races already, and they look really strong through practice, and also now, 8th and 9th for the moment is very respectable.
I myself have seen Hayden Rhodes out on track in the Super League Light official test sessions, and he didn't seem to be a slouch at all. So seeing him up in the top 10 in Formula Challenge, he might be able to aim for higher than that, as we've got purple sectors coming across the board. Sven de Vries purple in Sector 1, Terence Grech purple in Sector 2. Still, he's down in 14th, but this is going to be a big lap if he can round it out. Oh, as he's understeered way wide and off the track, that's going to be that lap shot for Terence Grech, unfortunately. But the track is drying, David.
It is. So there's only 24% wet now at parts of the racetrack, so it's drying really quickly, and I would not be surprised, but just under 5.5 minutes to go. Don't be surprised to see people try on the dry tyres before the session's out.
We currently have a fair few drivers out on slick tyres. The highest up at the moment is David Krupa, but Philip Koenig, Tony Janssen, and a few others are out there trying the slick compound tyres. Sven de Vries has them on his car, but he's currently sat in the pit lane biding his time, maybe betting that no one's going to be able to beat that 36.5. This is very close indeed.
Just leaves the pits now. I'll tell you what, Jono Holmes, though, is currently 8 tenths up. At the moment, he's really flying at the moment. So P2 at the moment, but looking strong. There's a bit of traffic ahead of him, but looking good to take that time. And he nearly loses it, actually. As I say, that's the commentator's curse. He spins off the track into the gravel trap. But there is definitely speed left on this track to improve on those inters.
Yep, just proved right there by Menno Klont, timing in with the exact same time as poleman Sven de Vries, so it must be to the fourth figure that Menno is behind. But 1:36.556 for both men on the front row at the moment, and a 36.576 for third place Jono Holmes. It couldn't get much closer.
Yeah, it's really competitive. And so you look at the top 5 cars, less than 2.5 tenths in these conditions is super impressive. And bear in mind, a lot of these guys have not driven in the wet in this car before, so it's for a lot of people their first experience in the wet in these cars, and they'll be learning as the event unfolds. But it's the case at the moment. If you've experienced in the wet before, you'll have a small advantage at least going into the race. You just know what to expect.
Indeed, as evidenced there by 4 stalwarts of GPVWC locking out the top 4 places. But moving up into 5th is Arjen van Putten. That's the GOAT for Go Team, another one of the newer teams to the career ladder this year. He's put it up into 5th place at the moment, right in amongst the sharp end, along with Alexander Ragoza, who might be about to improve again. Yes, he does. Alexander Ragoza to provisional pole.
Yeah, stunning lap.
Purple sector.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Absolutely superb. I say another guy that's up as well is Holmes is up again by about 6 tenths, so he's doing really well. Sandeep Singh as well is currently up on his time as he approaches the 3rd sector. He's got Campfield ahead of him, who's also up as well. So the times are tumbling. It's going to be a bit of a lottery as we go into the final moments of the sessions. Oh, Campfield actually holds up Singh as they go into the final corner. So that is a bit naughty there. I think that's Campfield was originally P7, but Campfield actually held up Singh as they went through the final part of the lap there. So that might be investigated potentially if it's reported.
With 31, 32 cars out on track, space is a premium. And with the track as it is now, that's Rick Van Doorn taking a hard hit into the wall at turn 4, just in front of Menno Klont and David Krupa. You need some space. You need to not have people be sliding out of the racing line in front of you and losing grip and costing you time, as Jonathan Holmes retakes the top spot on the leaderboard. 2 minutes to go.
Now, it's an awesome lap. He improved that by 2nd from his previous time. So it's, as I say, he'd had the speed there. It's just getting that lap time in. But now 1 minute 50 to go. Is it now worth the risk to... they have to literally, if they're going to put on dry tyres, it has to be now or they must be on the racetrack now to set a time on the dries if they are thinking of doing that. But it looks like most people on the Inters, so it looks like not many people are willing to take the risk.
Nobody in the... Oh, Terence Grech, actually, as you say that, he jumps up to 7th. He's now the highest placed driver out there at the moment on slick tyres. But that in 8th place is a purple middle sector from Adrian Campfield. He's really shifting as the track's drying up. It's now into the point where slicks are probably going to take over as the faster tyre, but most of these guys are already out and committed with their intermediates.
Yeah, that's it. It's a risk.
Purple middle sector. Grech with a purple sector 1. So we got several drivers on the move. Here's Campfield's lost it. Adrian Campfield. He was up and he's lost it out the final turn and slams into the pit wall. That's a front wing gone, and that's Adrian Campfield's session over.
And that's the risk of having these dry tyres. All you need is one moment where you run a little bit wide onto the wet stuff, and that is pretty much goodbye is what a Campfield experienced there. But Jonathan Holmes actually crossed the line now, and it looks like it's going to be another improvement. It's a 36.0. So Jonathan Holmes there with a super lap there to take that provisional pole.
Terence Grech with a purple middle sector, but he's got traffic. That's Morante in front of him. Come on, Morante. Get going, Terence Grech. Oh, his lap's been completely destroyed. He can't go off of the dry line, though, on those slick tyres, or else he'll just slide off the track. But Terence Grech, that's 2 purple sectors. I don't think he's going to be able to take pole position with that traffic in the final couple of corners. And sure enough, 2nd place, and only a 10th off, even with that final sector. It's a mega lap from Terence Grech on those slick tyres. It really is the tyre to be on at the moment. This person is Adrian Campfield, but I'm not sure if he got around to start the lap in time.
I'm not sure. There's a lot of people pitting now. Here comes Sven de Vries. I'm not sure if this is a time. And he got the pole. Sven de Vries has took the pole by 6 thousandths of a second, I believe that is, at the end of that. So he's stolen the pole there from Jono Holmes in the end. But yeah, Sven de Vries taking the pole. Last minute stand-in. But Holmes is also on another lap as well. So he's up, and this could, as I say, steal it from Sven's nose now.
Menno Klont with the purple 3rd sector to take himself up to 3rd, so that's a good qualifying from Menno. Kakrik Mikulak up into 6th for the PZZW team, so they're currently locking out row 3.
And Holmes takes the pole. Holmes has taken the pole. He snatched from Sven, so 35.8 in the end there. Tremendous lap there by Jonathan Holmes there. There's a crossfire 1-3 as it stands with Sven de Vries and his teammate Philip Koenig. They was a very new team as well, actually. They come in very recent days. They take the 2 and the 4 there as well.
And the final few drivers finishing their laps. Miguel de los Rios has jumped up into 13th. Several drivers setting personal bests as the session went on. I'm not sure if there is anyone out on track as it stands that has a lap, so I think we're safe to say that Jonathan Holmes takes the pole position for the first race of the 2019 Formula Challenge season.
That's an excellent job, and as I say, we did predict that the times will tumble down, and they really did. It's just been on the track the right time, and luckily for people like Jono, like Sven, like Menno Klont, like Koenig, and like Terence Grech in particular, being on the right tire at the right time was the important thing to do, and there we go. So that is the first qualified session done of the season, and everyone now just going back to the pits and probably going to sort out their cars now for the race as well.
Think as well, David, because the track is going to stay at about this sort of wetness as we go into the race. So what tyre do you start on? At the very end of the session, the slick tyre looked to be the tyre to be on, but so much of the racetrack is still damp. I'm looking at Philip Koenig now, and he's struggling to keep that thing in a straight line down the pit lane, and that's just because of the lack of grip.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. You know, so it's going to be difficult. I think because the fact as well, if you're on the dry tyres and you're trying to overtake somebody, you're going on the wet part of the track. So it's going to be so difficult to pass people. So I'd still, if it was me, I'd still go on the inters, even though it's pretty dry. You need, for it to be ideal in these wet conditions, you need like a 2 wide type of line, so a car for you, for your competitor to be on, a car for you to be on as well to overtake. So it's going to be difficult. It's going to be a very difficult decision now for these drivers to decide when it gets to warm up and see what happens. But again, a very exciting qualifying there to start the season off, and long may it continue regarding the whole of the 16 rounds we've got coming up this season as well.
Yeah, this is not going to be a short championship, and if it maintains this intensity all the way through, it will be an amazing one. Last year went really deep in the battle between Chris Butcher and Chris Shepherd. So who will take up the challenge this season? As it starts off, it's looking like Jonathan Holmes has fired the first salvo. But no points for qualifying. They're all decided in the race, as now we go into the warm-up session. So the track's going to dry a little bit more. And I see a few drivers coming out to test the slick tires, one of which is George Whitehouse. So qualifying, he's starting up in 8th. And,
it's not bad at all for his first, because he did do a race last year, didn't he, in the Super Cup in Brazil, I remember, and it was a wet day then as well, so he had some experience of that. But a young guy, he does go-karting in real life as well, and looking to make an impression in the sim racing world as well. But he's looked really impressive. Obviously, he's part of Calamity this year, and hopefully it'll be a great learning experience for him, and something to take in the future. But I think now it's a good time, Mike, to actually run down, as you didn't have much time at the start of the broadcast, to running down all the different teams and all the drivers for each team as well for the viewers at home.
all right then, well, starting from the top, you have Crossfire Competition, which is Jonathan Holmes, who's going to be taking the pole position, and Menno Klont. And that is the team of one David Carter. They're a new team into the career ladder and signing two competitive drivers. Clearly they're announcing their intentions not to mess about. And Crossfire, at least based on this first qualifying session, you've got to consider as favourites to do well in the first round.
We'd hope so, and I think that both of the cars are 1 and 3 on the grid. I believe that will be the dry side of the track, so they'll have a big advantage off the launch off the line, I think, as well, if you compare it to the people in the even number side of the grid. So it's going to be, if that is the case, which I'm pretty sure it is, that's going to be a nice advantage to have. But as you rightly say, Mike, I launched this team, and obviously we've had a few difficulties regarding drivers, as a lot of people know. But as you rightly say, we're not here to mess about and want to do well. But as you will point out with the rest of this grid, there's a lot of other fantastically talented teams on this grid.
Indeed, there are, such as I guess you can consider the team that is, well, another really strong qualifying there. Sven de Vries and Philip Koenig. They're RTD Racing. It's Philip Koenig's team. Sven de Vries came in as a late replacement for Patrick Wannemuller, I believe, is the main driver of that car. But Philip Koenig putting in a strong 4th place. You know, you can't argue with that. The drivers who were up with them was Crossfire, so they're going to be looking strong. And just in behind them, you've got, in 5th place, is Terence Grech, drivers for TSA Racing with Apex. And you've got to consider this guy to be one of, if not the most unlucky guy from that qualifying session. Oh yeah,
he took the risk, and for the one person who took the risk on the dry tyre, and it paid off, as well as Campfield actually as well, who binned it at the final corner. But they took the risk, and it paid off to some degree with Terence. And I think they're dark horses for this championship. You know, I think they're 2 guys who've got a lot of experience. Maybe not always been at the top level, but I think in a grid like this, where experience counts, I think they can go a long way this year, and certainly been the hunt to win races on a regular basis, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Terence, I think he may feel a bit robbed of pole position after encountering some traffic, but that's what it is. And he's teamed up with Adrian Campfield, who is the only driver remaining from last year's Teams Championship duel between Stax and Red Arrow. Adrian Campfield driving for Stax alongside Chris Shepherd last season. So he's proved that he can be competitive and be there or thereabouts at any given moment throughout a championship, and that's priceless when you're looking for drivers.
It's going to be huge. It's going to be huge. The other thing as well, you look at all the lineup of this grid and the amount of people who've come from different communities as well. And it's so impressive to see so many new names involved as well. For example, there is one really exciting team I think they'll do really, really well. And that is Razor GP of Sebastian Pace's team. And he's brought in Stephen Lexlow as his #1 driver. And he's also brought in Yannick Malaika, German team. And I've been talking to Stephen Lexlow in particular, and they seem like they mean business and they want to come in and do really well and win races, win championships on a regular basis. I think they've got a lot of experience in GT racing and those guys, and they're not showing themselves so well here, but in qualifying, but obviously difficult experience for them guys. But I think long term, if you look at the second half of the season, they'll be up there doing really, really well. I expect a lot from them.
Speaking of GT racing and drivers with pedigree, there you've got to look at Paul Holt and Tony Janssen, the Fair Racing team. Apologies for that. They're both stalwarts in GTs. Won't find much more solid drivers anywhere. They're certainly people to watch out for. If say there's an attritional race, let's say, they'll be moving up and forward throughout the grid. And the rather striking orange highlighted liveries there. Visible amongst the crowd.
So many nice liveries this year. That's the great thing about this grid this year. Is my game has just gone to pieces a little bit there, but hopefully it'll be come back in a second. But there we go. But yeah, some beautiful liveries this year. And as you said, with Mouse Swan Racing as well, they have got David Krupa and Martin Hemmingson will be their regular driver this year. But Hemmingson's not here actually today. Instead, it's their reserve driver Samuel Bentley who's actually taking part in that car. Which again, a good learning experience there for Samuel. But Krupa, a man with very good experience and a lot of potential, I think, this year. And Mouse One again, particularly when Hemmingson's back in the car. Again, another team you kind of expect, oh yeah, they're challengers, that type of thing, especially with Krupa's experience in the league as well from last year. I expect big things from them as well. I'd probably say 5 or 6 teams on this grid have a chance to win in the championship. You kind of look at their line and think, yeah, they're actually really, really good driver pairing. So, and they're one of those for sure.
Indeed. So we got to be honest, it's probably my favorite one of the whole grid. Just the way the yellow is, yellow and blue, not a so frequent a combination, unlike say black and red, which a lot of this grid seems to be. The many black and red liveries, or I guess grey and red, would be the Calamity cars, as we touched on earlier, with George Whitehouse as one of their drivers, and teammate Garrett DeFries, who is a driver, again, with a lot of experience in the Super Cup and with Super League and things like that. So he's going to be a key player, I think, in terms of races like these, where it's going to be mixed conditions, especially off the line.
Yeah, and again, a man, I think Garrett will help George a lot, I believe, as well. So, so again, I think they're a team that I think from race 2, they will be stronger. Of course, race 1 will, as for you experienced guys will know this, but for the new viewers watching this, race 1, obviously the results from race 1, between the top 11 and 15 cars will then be reversed to race 2. So you'll see some different cars at the front of the grid for race 2 at least, and then you might see a few different winners as a result of that. So it spices up the racing quite a lot. And I think there's some teams here who will do really well in race 1, and some teams who will be better off at the race 2 in particular. So you see some mixed results. I think 9 different teams won last year, and about 30 people tasted the podium as well at one point of the season or the other. So it's a lot of opportunity for people and drivers to get to do well and show really well and have put in some great performances.
Yes, indeed. I think it was Matthew Beavis at some point in the last season. He just went on a tear, like winning and podiuming several race 2s in a row. And any driver can pump themselves up into the championship contention by just running that kind of form. Just have a decent race 1 and then score big in race 2.
That's it. Just to let you know, more and more people are now trying the dries. And then I've got to make a decision now because there's just over a minute now before the race starts, and more and more people on the dry tyre, but they're experiencing problems. So it's a big decision now for these guys to see what tyre they're going to start with when the grid lines up and we see the formation lap and see what people have made the right choice or the wrong choice. It's going to be a very, very interesting race.
Indeed, it is. Just checking the wetness. Personally, if I was out there, or if we find the situation in Super League lights next week, I'll probably have gone for the slick tire. Although there are people saying that intermediates are the way to go, so maybe we'll see a mixed 50-50 grid and see who's right and see who's wrong. But if the rain holds off, it's got to favor the slick shod competitors. So, especially if you're starting in the odd line, I think you need to be considering running those slicks.
Yeah. So if you're on the racing line at the start, you've got a big advantage. I think it's still very, very treacherous off the line. So as you say, if you're starting like P1, P3, P5, P7 and onwards, then you'll have a nice advantage as this race starts. So I've just seen next game more cars spinning off as they just touch the line, a dry part of track and a wet part of track, and then they spin off. So it's very, very difficult for the guys. It's just going to be very difficult to judge as well. You know, as I say, again, a lot of these guys have never experienced wet dry running before in these cars, so it's going to be difficult to get an idea of how the race is going to unfold. But one thing I would say is expect a little bit of contact, a little bit of action at the first few laps, I think, as people are getting to grips with the car.
Just seen James Pinsker try out a practice start, who's the second of the Go Team drivers. He tried a practice start. I guess he's starting from the even side of the grid, but he almost instantly tail swapped on him. So it's really the case where it's similar to last year's Super Cup round where we had a wet qualifying and just one side of the grid just stood still off the line and the other side just went flying through. I think I didn't have a good qualifying. I was way down the back. I gained like 6 places on the run to turn 1 just by being on the dry side of the grid. So look out for some people further back storming up, and expect Sven de Vries will be doubly gutted to have missed out on the pole position now that he not only isn't on pole, he now has to start from the wet side of the racetrack.
Now, you notice now everyone's lining up on the grid, or supposed to be, but if you notice, everyone's waiting to the last possible minute to decide wet or dry. As I'm just seeing a few people now up on the grid. It looks like the majority of people are going on the dry. Well, some people going on the dries on my screen. Most people, but it might be just the game not loading up properly. But looks like most people are going to risk it on the dries. Oh no, Inters are loading into the game now, so looks like
it sometimes does take a moment to sync, but right now it's, I don't know, there we go, looking more and more like people are on dries. And as we lost George Whitehouse briefly and then has reconnected, and we've expect we'll just be going to the race straight away again. Set of the grid from the race director. So on pole position, we're going to have Crossfire Competition Jonathan Holmes making his return to the Formula Challenge ahead of, I guess you could call him the super sub, Sven de Vries. He's going to be starting from the wet side of the grid, driving for RTD Racing, just ahead of the second Crossfire Competition of Menno Klont and Philip Koenig in the second RTD car, lining up alongside him on row 2. Arguably could have been pole, Terence Grech, if it wasn't for some unfortunate traffic, but that's the way of qualifying sometimes. You win some, you lose some. And alongside him, Alexander Ragoza for PZZW, which is a team we didn't really talk about in warm-up, but they've had a very good qualifying with Alexander in 6th and teammate Kasper Michalek right behind him in 7th. So that's going to be a team to look out for as we head down into turn 1. In 8th place, George Whitehouse for Calamity. That's going to be another driver that we've both had our eye on pre-season. Ahead of Sandeep Singh, who considered by many early on to be one of the highlights of the grid. He's down in 9th, and he's a driver that will look to always make his way forward. He's driving for KC Racing. And then behind him is Arjen van Putten, who's driving for Go Team. From the wet side of the grid onto the formation left or right. Behind him, Hayden Rhodes, a driver we talked about previously for Mad Otter iSim RS Racing. X4 seemed quite an aggressive driver, so if he can make his way forward, that'll be interesting to see. And behind him, Adrian Kempfield, probably a bit lower than he'd expect to be in P12 for TSA Racing with Apex. Os Rios, the second KC car. He seemed to have a bit of a challenging qualifying, but he showed pace last year, so expect him to move up. In the first of the Academy cars, in Giuseppe Saracino. Good to see those do well. And ahead of Stephen Lexo in 15th cars, and then David Krupa, who, that is a very low qualifying for David Krupa, only 16th. Almost certainly he's going to be looking to move forward with a vengeance. Just behind him is Mateusz Ziobinski, in the first of the PLS Racing Team cars. It's a very eye-catching livery there, in the main white livery in this sea of mainly black liveries. Just behind him is Francesco Morante in the Drive Game Seat Racing Team, just a few places ahead of his teammate. Solid midfield qualifying, look for him to move forward, especially as the track dries up. And then, hang on, I just need to look this up real quick again, because it's a driver with a hard to pronounce name for me. Bartlomi Matashuk. I did write that down. That's
it's a challenging one.
Had to make sure I was prepared. He's lining up in 20th in the second of the PLS cars. Just behind him is Simone Iannacco. Freeze, 22nd. Experienced racer, look for him to make some moves. Then Rodrigo Carvalho in the Academy car, looking for a clean race he said earlier. Ahead of Rick Van Doorn. Then Sem Wong, Yannick Malika, Frank Hamming, and 27th, ahead of James Pinsker, who looked very quick earlier. Shame to see him so far down the grid. Then Samuel Bentley and Tony Janssen, 29th and 30th, and Dionysis Faros rounding out the grid, starting from the pit lane, which may be a smart call, David.
It may be, and one other assessment is Rick Van Dorn is the only guy starting intermediates, but so watch out for him off the in the race. He might make a few places being on that intermediate tyre.
Right, as the drivers are ready, the lights come on. 2, 3, 4, 5. The revs are going to rise, and away they go. And Jonathan Holmes gets a great start as expected, as does Menno Klont. And look at that, Terence Grech already up to third, as they're 3, 4, 5 wide further in behind. There's one of the Mad Otter cars getting into some action there, as they all make it through turn 1. Looks like one of the Fair Racing Team cars has gone off, but a brilliant start from both Crossfires to take first and second, and Grech up into third off the start.
And Morante spun off as well at turn 1, but say everyone else has got through pretty cleanly as they head up out of turn 3 and turn 4, as there's a bit of contact. Saracino, Krupa, and another car off in the background. Rick Van Dorn is struggling there. He's actually on the dry tyre. I think my car didn't get him loaded. Oh, a spinner there. It's the Academy car. Who is that? That's Saracino. Saracino has spun that off as well, as Sabinski's lost his front wing as well for the PLS car as well. But actually, rightly say, Crossfire 1 and 2, with Terence Grech in 3rd place and Sven de Vries in 4th, chasing him down.
Fantastic start from Grech there, and the top 4 breaking away a bit. Sandeep Singh has got his way up to 5th, and he's almost in a world of his own, with the top 4 running away ahead as they come down. Oh, and that's Menno Klont having to take to the runoff area already. I think he just got a bit too deep through turn 11. And look at Sven de Vries. He's trying to get around the outside of Grech. He's done it. Now he cuts back to the inside of Menno Klont. And through he goes. Brilliant move from Sven de Vries. Menno Klont, he's gone wide. Sandeep Singh's going to come ahead of him, and then Klont's going to rejoin, and another car goes off in the background. It's Hayden Rhodes, and they're 3 wide behind. Campfield and Whitehouse, and David Krupa trying to make progress.
Oh, contact there between Michalak and Koenig as well. Michalak dived down the inside and give a Koenig good old shove onto the grass as well. So that's a bit of an uncontrolled manoeuvre there. So Koenig suffered as a result.
Not the best first laps for Philip Koenig there, as we're side by side. It's Lexo who's had a good first lap, and he's going past Kasper Michalek in turn 1. And a big tank slapper. Stephen Lexlow, that's the danger of braking on the wet part of the racetrack, as he's going to fall way down. That was a move that wasn't intent for 6th, so Lexo had a really good first lap up until that point.
He did, he's made his way through the field really well, but chaos at the back of the grid as well. There's a lot of people he's going to be making for pit stops. Let's just have a look now. So we got Sabinski, Ragotso, who had a great qualifying. He's down there in the pits as well. Ineko as well, he's in the pits as well. So 3 cars in the pits and a lot of other drivers who've been in the wars on the opening lap.
Miguel de los Rios all over the back of Kasper Michalek, so that could be a move for 6th place coming out very soon. But the top 5, they've got a big gap already, David. Oh, and so it's Koenig. His poor start gets even worse as he does a
chaos.
360. And,
it's Campfield, it's Van Dorn, Rhodes, Krupa, and Van Putten, who's also had a big incident as well. So that's the danger being in the mid-pack. You're going to get involved in incidents, people trying to overtake each other in the wet part of track, and then incidents will occur. So being at the front of the field is the safest part of the racetrack at the moment.
Indeed it is. That's Rick Van Dorn's made a good start. He's up a couple good.
Menno's off. Klont's off as well. Klont's spun off from P5.
Menno's really struggling in these conditions, it seems, as here comes George Whitehouse to put pressure on him. Top 4 have got now, David, and with the aggression that came out of Sven de Vries already in this race, he's got to be aiming for Jono Holmes and going to try and, try everything in his power to get on him and get past him early.
Yeah, I think that's the plan. I think Sven is, as I say, his talent will show today, and I think he's going to, as you say, he's already close to the gap down by 8/10 in the last lap. So he's certainly on the march to close down to Jonathan Holmes right now.
And Terence Grett continuing his good start. He's up in 3rd. De Vries getting away from him a little bit, but he's keeping Sandeep Singh under control, and they're just building this gap back to the duo of Kasper Michalek and Miguel de los Rios, who themselves have quite a sizable gap over the next 3 of George Whitehouse, Menno Klont, and Adrian Campfield.
They do.
Very jumbled start.
For back as well. So running down to the front runner. So Jonathan Holmes still in the lead. He's been closed down by Sven de Vries as they approach 11 and 12. Then you got Gretsch. Sandeep Singh has made a great start, by the way. Started P9. He's on the dry side of the track, and he's really capitalising that P4. Watch out for him, because I've watched a lot of his practice times. It's really, really quick all through testing. So watch out for him to make some moves. And they got Kasper
and David
Michalek.
Krupa. They've had another off together. Seem to be stuck together, or Van Putten and Krupa. Neither of them can seem to make that much progress, but he's again showing that experience. He's up a good, maybe 10 places already on the opening couple of laps, up into 15th for Calamity, and that's down in the final points paying position. So good job for Garrett, good start there.
So I'm just watching now battle for P5, Michalak and De Los Rios. So again, he's looking really quick through testing. Obviously in the dry conditions, he's made a lot of progress as well. But was P14 in qualifying, I believe. De Los Rios is now up to P6. So both KC racing cars have had brilliant starts in this race as we are in the 4th lap now.
As we just had, Rick Van Doren has dropped into the pits. He did start on those intermediate tires, so that probably was a mistake. I think he's gone to put those right, but he's going to come out all the way down in 27th. So the Mad Otter iSim RS team, Hayden Rhodes still going strong, but that's going to be tough to get both cars up in the points now from this position. Still, he's all over the back of Philip Koenig. Koenig had great pace in qualifying, but something's not working for him in the race. Maybe he picked up a little bit of damage early on or so, but Hayden Rhodes is properly attacking him. And Koenig needs to be careful, because ordinarily you'd move to the inside to defend your line, but you move to the inside here and you just drive onto the wet stuff and just go spearing off.
It's literally a case if you got to stick to the racing line and you got to make the other guy go down the inside of you, because it's risky, as Koenig actually runs wide. Hayden Rhodes makes it past, so Rhodes into the top 10 there, with just staying on the island and using the DRS to get away from down the straight as well. Koenig in all sorts of bother in these opening few laps.
Ahead of these guys, it was Adrian Campbell making the move. Oh, as Hayden Rhodes has gone off, so that's going to give the place right back again.
Oh, and
Sandeep
Singh was looking down the inside into turn 1 as well, but couldn't make the move stick, and Gretsch just got away a little bit as a result.
Menno Klont and Adrian Campfield, they're dueling hard. Campfield went through, but Menno did a brilliant little switch back on him, and now Menno's back ahead. But here comes Campfield through the second DRS zone. The dry line's getting wide enough now that you can almost think about doing some late braking, and oh, that's the grass. Adrian Campfield tried to switch back across, just dropped the wheel, the grass still soaking wet. And Campfield back off the back of Menno Klont, doesn't lose a position, but lost a lot of time.
Just about 4 seconds there as a result. So he's got to make up all that hard work again, and that gives Clont a lot of breathing space actually now to at least relax and do his own race for the moment at least. But doing a solid job. Obviously, shame about the mistakes he's made. I just watched Lexolo again run off the circuit in P12, but he rejoins absolutely fine. And behind him, you got Frank Hamming and David Krupa there. He's looking down the inside now of Hamming for P13. This is as Krupa makes the move down the inside, but completely outbreaks himself on the wet line there. Takes the rallycross line through the corner there, and Hamming gets away with it. And Gerrit de Vries capitalises on that, up to P14. Krupa now in the last points main position. So all that hard work he's done to get up to that P14 and P13 just thrown it all away.
Jumping back to the lead here, Jonathan Holmes and Sven de Vries. The gap is now under 0.4 of a second. Sven de Vries is going to be DRS assisted, but it seems like Jonathan Holmes has got the slight edge in terms of straight line speed, so de Vries is going to have to get it done under braking, as Jonathan Holmes makes up a little bit of a gap through the first couple turns. Some of the people who have had some damage, and so they've put a lap on one of the Fair Racing Team drivers, and that's Paul Holt, who's pulling off to the side. He is properly going for this.
It's difficult because there's also got Sen Wong as well, who's lost the rear wing, so they need to pit now, basically, if they can make it to the pits, or if they're parked up, just do something sensible. Just try and get to the pits as best you can. I think Paul Holt's trying to be really sensible, trying to get to the pits without ruining anyone's race or getting in the way, so he's pitting now, but to say that the fight for points for them is completely out the window now.
Holmes has pulled a little bit of a gap on de Vries, but de Vries was very quick through here the last time by, and it looks like again visibly seems a little bit quicker than Holmes, but Holmes has pulled away enough that I don't think de Vries is going to be able to have the slipstream, but Sven's still got the trusty DRS that's going to keep him level.
Yes, it is.
Terence Grech and Sandeep Singh, they're still third and fourth. They're kind of holding place, not really quite battling yet. Sandeep needs to close up just a little bit before Terence is going to feel the pressure. And then running in fifth, Kasper Michalek. He's pulled away from Miguel de los Rios. It's a great run going from Michalek.
Yeah, I didn't expect Michalek to be so good, but obviously the practice he put in and the setup he's got for these conditions is paying off a treat. So Michalek doing a fantastic job, and we knew Miguel was going to be quick going into this race because we saw I saw their lap times in testing. It was right up the front, the sharp end of the field. So it might be just the weather, it might be the conditions or the rubber layout, but the case he's not having the best of things. Michalek is doing a really good job to keep him behind, but also keep that gap at around a second and a half all the time as well. So impressive stuff there.
It's going to close up as I hear some things going on in front of the leaders. Fracture 2 making noises at me, but Sven de Vries is closer now. Is he going to be able to set up a move coming out of here? Oh, look how much later he brakes. Sven's properly going for this. He's got the slipstream. 11 and 12 is going to be a good place for an overtake, but they sure are a good spot to set up, especially if Sven can carry more speed out.
No, the traffic now ahead. You got Faros there. Oh wow, Sven de Vries runs wide, but now you got traffic now as you got these lap cars. Now, what are these? Hopefully, these lap cars are going to be nice and sensible with the traffic, because there's always been a few incidents already, and of course the lap cars will be on the wet stuff as well, so it'll be difficult.
Fun out of turn 12. That outside grass is not very nice at the best of times, and make it wet is even worse. So that's going to grant 6th place to George Whitehouse. And it's going to drop De Los Rios back into the clutches of Menno Clont and Adrian Campfield. About the lap cars is, there's a couple of errant front wings around as we see, I think that's Malenka coming out of the pits right on the nose of Terence Grech. So he's going to have to try and stay out of the way.
A spin for Krupa as well. Another spin for David Krupa into braking down towards Ascari. And he's now down 17th now. So a man who's looking so promising testing is having an absolute shocker race here in this race one. You say his best hope now is getting to the points and hopefully getting a mixture of the race to shuffle round there for the reverse grid.
The leaders now catching up to a three-way battle for lapped cars. It's Tony Janssen, Dionysus Faros, and Alexander Ragoza, who's had down to 28th after such a promising qualifying, but that's put Sven de Vries right on the gearbox of Jonathan Holmes. Jono might be a bit quicker on the straights, but Sven can just brake so much later as all the lap cars. Holmes takes the escape road and he spun it. Jonathan Holmes spins upon rejoining the circuit.
Wow, that's...
Fortunate. He took avoiding action and it's bitten him. He's down to 5th place.
Well, that's unbelievable, isn't it? I don't know if he's got any damage or not, but literally the 2 battling cars ahead, because of that spin, has put Johnny up. He did the right thing, but of course it was wet, so it was difficult there for Johnny to not do that. But that has literally gifted the lead to Sven de Vries.
Terence Gregg just hit the wall coming out the final corner. He's inherited 2nd after the Holmes spin, and he clouts the wall. And through goes Sandeep Singh. As they're coming up to the same battle, Sandeep Singh now takes 2nd place. And Sven de Vries has made it safely through this group of back markers. Sandeep Singh now starts his way through. But Terence Gregg, he had 2nd, and he just caught the wet line on the final turn and understeered out wide. He hit the wall pretty hard. I don't know how much that's going to affect him, but that's going to drop him for sure back into the clutches of Catherine. Oh, and a big crash!
That's the back marker getting away. Yeah, Faros. Faros has spun and he's wiped Sandeep Singh's front nose off as well.
No.
Front wings. That's a trip to the pits of Sandeep Singh. He always seems to attract the bad luck, no matter what it is for Sandeep. He just always gets involved in it and whacks the wall as well.
And Greg. They're just gifting places to Kasper Michalek on a plate at the moment, as he's gone now from 5th to 2nd in the space of a lap just by keeping it on the dry stuff.
Yes, I would Michalek there, but I say this traffic as well. There's another spinner there for an Academy car as well, going through 11 and 12. But these back markers need to be far more sensible with their, at the end of the day, I've always said this: if you're a back marker, just get out of the way.
George Whitehouse. He was making a move on Jonathan Holmes, and he caught the wet stuff as they were 3 wide with Saraceno, and Whitehouse has a huge accident. Drive away from that, I do not know.
And he's still going. He's in P8 at the moment, but look at the chaos in front. It's just cars everywhere at the moment.
The damaged Sandeep Singh as well in there, and Delos Rios caught on the outside of his damaged teammate. Here comes Menno Klont. Positions chopping and changing. Philip Koenig's back in this as well now, as Sandeep Singh's going to have to divert down the pit lane, which is still going to be soaking wet. So Sandeep needs to be careful, especially when coming back out onto the track. But that is really unfortunate for Sandeep, as he's going to drop like a stone. And Philip Koenig now just gets 2 spots on the straight as he passes Klont and Delos Rios.
He does. Brilliant opportunity from there. So Koenig had a bit of a shaky start. He's now making his way back up the grid at quite a rate as well, thanks to all these incidents in part. But he's doing a good job, and everyone else falling off around him. But yeah, good opportunities from there as Whitehouse is now, after all that car still going, still in P6.
He nearly hit a bridge. How is that car still going?
I don't
George
know.
Whitehouse, if he can get anything out of this race, all power to him. But it was just a case 3 wide, and the dry line was only wide enough for 2 cars, and he just dropped a wheel around the slightest kink. It's not even officially a corner.
Oh, Michalek's off. Michalek's had a spin. He's done like a Timo Glock from 2008, but he's recovered it really nicely. Terence Gregg now up to 2nd.
Sven de Vries keeps this on the track now. He's won, as the track's starting to actually get a bit of rubber on the dry line. But these guys, they keep making small mistakes, and because of the weather, it's just going to catch them out every time. As Greg now back up to 2nd. Kasper Michalek still in a strong 3rd and still not out of the fight for 2nd, pending no future mistakes. But Jonathan Holmes has now been brought back into this, as arguably he's the quickest of the 3 of these cars and is now able to see both of them. So we'll see what Jonathan can do. He's got 5 laps to go. Up into 5th place, Adrian Campfield. So that's +7 from the grid.
Yeah,
from Adrian. Stuff. And the two Apex, TSA Racing Apex cars, they're up 2nd and 5th, so very strong opening 10 laps of the season from them. And all Klont and Delos Rios on the wet stuff. Does very well to hold that, but I think that's probably the closest battle for inside the top 10. And speaking of 10th place, Stephen Lexo had a brilliant start, went off on the first turn of the 2nd lap, dropped a long way back down. He's back up to 10th, so fantastic performance there for the Razor driver.
Yeah, he's had a bit of a mixed one, hasn't he? He's had a mixed event so far, but done brilliant to get back into that top 10. And I always say, you know, for a good championship run, if you get yourself in the top 10, like, just even if you don't win race, get yourself a top 10, because I say it's still good solid points to take around with you. And there's always going to be people in and around you in the championship, no matter where you are, who's going to be having incidents falling off and getting DNFs. So even when you're getting like 10th and 12th, they all add up, these points at the end of the season. So it's important to get them.
Indeed they do. And speaking of points, Sandeep Singh, he's come out of the pits. He's 16th. And on the back of Rodrigo Carvalho, we're on the back of Francesco Morante. So that's 3 cars fighting for 2 points positions. Sandeep obviously recovering. Rodrigo Carvalho has come back up from...
Fresh rubber for Sandeep, of course. So he is going to be on it completely, you know, fresh rubber, lower fuel now than the start of the race. So he's going to be really, really on it as he's going to be hunting down Morante at the rate of knots.
Sandeep did pass Rodrigo Carvalho there. Carvalho made a small mistake and just ran into the grass. Did a good, you know, sensible rejoin not to spin the car, but he's now going to be looking at points drive off up the road, unfortunately, I think.
So I've just
Sandeep Singh straight off the track.
Oh, wow.
Still these conditions catching out even some of the more experienced drivers there, is like Sandeep Singh. Oh, no, it wasn't him. It was a screen freeze from Morante. So Sandeep Singh has now had an incident with a back marker and has now had somebody screen freeze into him. So that is, you know, typical Sandeep race from a season, but good to see him still going. He's down in 17th, so points still aren't off the table yet.
I'll tell you what, though, Michalak is closing up to the back of Terence Gretsch as well. The gap now under 0.8 of a second now. So, and with DRS as well, Michalak will have the magnets on.
You say gap. If you look at Miguel de los Rios, there isn't a gap to Menno Clont anymore, as de los Rios coming down in towards turn 1, going for the inside under braking. Menno's going to let him have it. De los Rios is going to shoot on. Menno Clont back underneath, just like he did to Adrian Campfield earlier. But de los Rios is going to have the second DRS zone, so is he going to try again into turn 4? Moves to the inside. Again, Menno's not really defending it. Menno's just staying his line, and then there we go. Cuts back underneath again. It's the experience of Menno Clont. Knows exactly where to put his car to try and defend a position. Oh, just gets it straight back again.
I think as well, Menno knows that there's not much grip on the inside. It's just one line pretty much for this track at the moment still. Even though the track's pretty much absolutely dry now, it's important to stay on that racing line, because that's where the grip is at the moment. There's not much grip on this circuit. So if you make a move, you've got to be sure that you've got the braking absolutely spot on to actually make that move stick. And now Miguel's tried it twice this lap and not managed to make it stick.
There's been some moving and shaking in the midfield as Morante has now dropped down to 18th, potentially another screen freeze as he just repasses Rick Van Doorn. But there's the Academy car of Carvalho missing a front wing, unfortunately, which again has changed the points and put Sandeep Singh into 15th. And also Bartlome, he's up, the guy with a name that I find very hard to pronounce. He's up into 14th and defending it well for PSL or PLS. It's going to be some good, strong points for them on debut. Keep that position, and looking at the gap behind, certainly behind Sandeep Singh, but can he hold off the Indian?
And as Miguel Del Rio actually tries again to pass Menno into turn 1, but didn't go for the move this time. So Menno held that P8, but I say the KC Racing car really trying to get the move done here and make something stick. But I say it looks like he's definitely the quicker car. But Menno putting the car on the right bits of the racetrack as we got 1.5 laps to go now. Sven de Vries got 7.5 seconds in the lead. He's absolutely, well, since he's been in the lead, he's absolutely cruised since Jono Holmes made that mistake there while leading. But it's been all Sven since then, and you got to be there to capitalise, and he's capitalised, and it's been his race since he's taken the lead. So full credit to him.
And especially with some amazing overtaking manoeuvres on the end of the first lap against Grech and Clont. That was pretty insane. And
Campfield's gone off at turn 12, and Whitehouse has taken 5th. So Whitehouse, the gymnast, you know, and everything from earlier, P5 on his debut. That is tremendous.
Don't call it over yet. Philip Koenig has made his way past Campfield as well, and Koenig's running well. the last few laps, Philip Koenig has been closing in on George Whitehouse, so I wouldn't say Whitehouse is in the clear quite yet. But Koenig's now going to have his rear view full of Adrian Campfield, who is probably not going to be in the best of moods after making a mistake like that.
And
Again,
battle for
Blunt and Delos Rios.
The battle for
Yet
P2 is spicing up, by the way, Mike, as Gretsch, Michalak, and Jonathan Holmes battle in the last lap here for P2. Look at these three; they're separated by about just over a second. There's back markers as well.
Makes his way past Samuel Bentley, who's now the car in question for Michalak. Side, Holmes has made a small mistake and dropped back, so now it's probably going to be between Grech and Michalak unless it all goes wrong. They're coming up on Iannacco. Look at this. I think unless Grech makes a mistake, it's a bit too far. Certainly a front row start, I think. He's going to make it up with a front row finish of second place. Good start to the season. Going to be up on the podium. The lap cars are even giving him DRS, so that's going to help him out no end. But coming into the final couple of corners, 8-minute emergency drive for RTD Racing. Sven de Vries, easy first couple of laps. He's going to drive it to the pit wall, and is Caden Rhodes going to lap himself? Oh no, Sven de Vries takes the win. First round of the season of GPVWC Challenge goes to Sven de Vries. Grech holds second, Michalak in third, Jonathan Holmes in fourth. And as you predicted, George Whitehouse is held on for fifth. Campfield has managed to dispose of Philip Koenig, though, for sixth and seventh. Looks like he's got eighth fairly under control against Miguel de los Rios. Rounding out a strong top 10 for Razor. And on the final lap, David Krupa showing the pace he's got as he sets the purple middle sector. He's going to finish 13th in Mouse 1, which is probably not where he'd hoped for, but the pace is in the bag, and he's going to have a decent reverse grid position.
Battle here for 14th. Still Mashashik and Sandeep Singh as they go into the final. Look at Sandeep trying to go around the outside. On the grass, though, he can't.
Banging wheels. But he's going to hold that. And 15th for Sandeep Singh. Point everything. I think he can't be too disappointed with that, all things considered. And a good shot at race 2 with a very, I think, guaranteed top 6 starting position. So those few we missed were Arjen van Putten, who finished in 11th for Go Team, and Gerrit de Vries with a strong opening race, finishing in P12 in the second Calamity car, so double points for those guys. Krupa finished in 13th, Machashek in 14th ahead of Sandeep Singh. Rick Van Doorn, unfortunately going to miss out on some points for the Mad Otter team ahead of Mateusz Zabinski. Frank Hamming is going to be 18th. And Francesco Morante, as he had an accident coming out the final corner.
Don't know, I didn't catch that.
Would have rounded out our finishers. Yes, he did. He's hit the wall coming out the final corner. So if he can get that thing to the line, that'll be 9th, or he's 19th anyway. He's the last car on the lead lap. Hayden Rhodes is going to be in 20th ahead of Simone Iannacco. Samuel Bentley, who was running strong early on. Not sure quite what happened to him, but he's back down in 22nd. Alexander Ragoza, who for sure had pace in that race, but it just all seemed to go wrong early on. He's down in 23rd, so he's going to be looking for a bit of a recovery drive in race 2. Rodrigo Carvalho in P24 ahead of Yannick Malaika is finishing 26th ahead of Giuseppe Saracino. Ross and Paul Holt was going to round out our finishers, with the DNFs being James Pinsker, that's unfortunate for James Pinsker. He was looking quite rapid in the practice session, and Sem Wong unfortunately DNFing as well. So that's not good for either of those two. They'll be looking to make amends in the second race.
Yeah, it's, as I say, experience for these guys, and they are going to have plenty of these experiences as the season goes on. You know, good experiences, bad experiences as well. But it's the first round of the season. You know, still a long way to go for these guys. You know, 32 rounds in total this year, and it's going to be, as I say, it's going to be interesting, intriguing, and amazing to see how these guys do in a full season. Yeah,
for sure. But before we focus on the rest of the season, we do have a race 2 coming up, which I believe is a top 15 to 20 random draw reverse. So that's going to provide something interesting with that. So those candidates, just double checking real quick.
I think it's 11 to 15, isn't it?
15?
I think it is. I'm pretty sure it's 11 to 15.
So, it's 10 to 15. Apologies. It
10
shows
to
how long
15.
since I've driven in Formula Challenge. So 10 to 15, that's going to be Stephen Lexo is going to be the first of the reverse grid pole candidates. So that'll be really interesting to put him on pole, given how he ran through race 1.
Yeah.
Arjen van Putten, he's going to be another strong one. He's in 11th, ahead of Gerrit de Vries. And David Krupa, if he gets on pole position, anybody catching him, quite frankly. And then Bartolomei Matichik, and rounding out the reverse grid candidates is Sandeep Singh. So if Sandeep gets on pole, that's going to be very interesting between himself and David Krupa, I believe. Unless, of course, someone throws a surprise. It's early on in the season, anything can happen.
Yeah, exactly. Say everyone's still getting used to racing, not only the cars and the tracks, but each other as well. So it's going to be interesting. But I think as it's now the build up to race 2 and the warm up and everything, I think it's a good time to mention what's going on ahead of what's going on in the coming days and weeks. And for everyone watching at home, I hope you're enjoying it. And still still a race 2 to go here as well. But I say, if any of you are watching this stream and thinking, "Oh, I'd like to fancy a bit of this racing malarkey at GPV," it looks like a good experience and a good league to race in. And what you can do, if you look at the description below in this video, is you can check out our website, and you'll find there is an academy series for you guys to race at. And it's a great opportunity for you to, if you need experience, you are looking for a team to race at GPVWC, then that league or that series is open to everybody who hasn't got a race contract with a team at GPVWC, and you can hopefully gain experience, see if you like the league or not, or if you are looking for a team, it's a great opportunity for you to prove yourself and show yourself to everybody out there in the series. And a lot of people I message and I help out to get in that series as well. It's a really fascinating series because that means you get to see all the top talent, all the new talent coming through the series as well as obviously the rest of the career ladder coming up through the coming days and weeks as well. So you've got Super Cup, the brand new Super League Light series as well, which yourself, Mike, are taking part in for Cosmo, which would be great to watch, see how that series evolves. And obviously the main WTF1 Super League as well. And also, if you're a team owner in this series, the World GT signups are now opened for everybody to sign up for. So it opened up yesterday, and I believe that the deadline for signups for that team signups, that's the 17th of March. So if you are interested, it's our only GT series in the calendar. There's 6 rounds in that series, and it's using all the Studio 397 content, all the GT cars in that pack as well. So it's a great opportunity for you guys to check that out. And if you are a team and you've got drivers and you want to take part in that, get your applications in and see if you end up in the series or not.
And no kidding, last year's World GT, that was really interesting with the ACR Zach Speed, Risto Caput going all the way to win the championship. But several drivers looked to be challenging at various different circuits. Kevin Ryan was one for Simtech. There was Dennis Lind who came in for a few rounds in the second ACR car. So it's definitely a top level series as World GT. And to the career ladder you mentioned, this here being the Formula Challenge, basically the 4th tier in GPVWC. And seeing how strong some of these guys are here. I mean, Sven de Vries, I believe, is going to be in action in the Super League. In the Super Cup on Tuesday, I want to say. Yeah, Super Cup's on Tuesday of next week. So keep an eye out for him and against that grid. But you mentioned the Academy Series here. Several of these drivers, David Krupa, George Whitehouse, both the 2 drivers competing in the Academy cars, that lots of people here have come through the Academy Series onto the grid at Formula Challenge. And for each Academy race, the top 2 drivers are invited to actually be driving in the GPVWC Academy cars, which here are being driven by Rodrigo Carvalho Who's the other one real quick? Rodrigo Carvalho
And it's Saracino, Giuseppe Saracino.
Giuseppe Saracino. So they've earned their spot on this grid through a strong performance in the last Academy round. So we've had a reverse grid draw, and it is number 10. So that's going to be Stephen Lexo.
Interesting.
He's going to be taking pole position.
That is going to be really interesting, I think. Top 10, obviously, so it keeps all the faster guys nice and close. But it'd be interesting to see how Lexo does. I'm intrigued. I think he's going to be pretty strong, particularly in our second race and everything else as well. You know, he have that clean track in front of him to get a good opportunity to get a good launch and see how he does, as well as the other 10 people who have been rotated as well. Just got an explanation actually for the strange circumstances that oh, who was it again? I can't remember his name. Sorry about this. I've completely forgotten what his name was. But pedal problems was the reason why. Where is his name? I can't remember what his name is now. It's really bad of me to say. It's Francisco Morante. That's it. I do apologise about that. But as Azeo Gazella in chat says, his pedal disconnected 20 meters from the line and couldn't move. So big frustration for him. But hopefully get this pedals fixed and ready for the next race, or this race coming up in less than 2 minutes' time. The session will turn over to the race 2.
A pedal issue is horrible. I've had them myself through most of last year. Not good. It's something that will really impact you. Even if you're losing 5% throttle, say, that's going to slow you down on the straights quite a bit. So hopefully he can get those sorted out and we can get on to race 2 with the Razor driver of Stephen Lexo on pole, which a really good start last time. So I think he made a good 5-6 places up on the first lap. He doesn't have anyone in front of him this time, so can he just use that to try and get away? It's going to be interesting to see.
It looks like Morante has just joined the service, so hopefully he's got those problems fixed that he had with his pedals. So fingers crossed for him that he's got it all sorted out. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And particularly these newer guys as well. For example, like George Whitehouse, he'll be starting, I believe, from like P6 as well. Obviously a very strong showing in the first race there. He'll be one to watch out for, I think, in this one as well, because for a debut performance, even though he had that incident there where he's just going down to Ascari, that was a really fascinating incident. But to recover from that and still put in that performance is really, really impressive. So look out for Whitehouse. Obviously, a strong debut here this evening, and the confidence will be high.
Indeed it will. I mean, he got very unlucky there, just dropping a wheel onto not even the grass, just onto the wet tarmac at just a horrible opportunity. But looking at some of the fastest laps of some of the guys getting reversed here, Stephen Lexo last time managed a 36.2 compared to the man who will be starting second, Miguel de los Rios, on a 35.2. So if de los Rios could potentially hit the front, not very many people in front of him were actually quicker. There was only 2, 3, 4 drivers ahead of de los Rios that were actually putting in a faster lap time in race 1. So the highest starting of those is going to be Adrian Campfield, who's going to be starting back on row 3. So we'll have to see there. Although de los Rios not going to be starting on the racing line, I think it will be dry enough now that the whole grid will be dry, but still not the favourable line down in towards turn 1, because all of that grip's going to be out on the outside line.
It is indeed, and all that rubber as well makes a big difference. But we'll just see if it is actually damp at all on the racetrack. Apparently, it's still 60% wet offline.
Ooh,
so that is going to be very, very difficult for people still making a move. This is only at certain corners, though, in certain parts of the racetrack, including bridges and stuff. But that is still treacherous to make a move at certain parts of the racetrack, particularly the slower areas, maybe like Sector 3, for example, and going through like turns 3,
there we go.
3, 4. There we go. It's actually completely right.
Fully dry.
Bone dry. So I'm talking nonsense. So there we go.
Take a moment for the plug-in to refresh itself, which is why sometimes you'll see drivers almost miracle change tires on the grid and things like that. So just bear with our factor for a second, but usually about 10 seconds till the start of the rolling lap, you'll get a clear picture of what's going on. And speaking of clear picture, getting a clear picture of turn 1 is going to be Stephen Lexo starting from pole for Razor GP. Going to be Bastian Paisler's going to be looking on very excited on that one. But alongside him, KC Racing Esports, Miguel de los Rios. So if he can get a clear run down to turn 1, will anybody be able to see him again? Again, crossfire competition. Menno Klont. Hopefully he'll have a better run through from third this time than he did last time. Him again on row 2 is going to be Philip Koenig. So third and fourth, the same as last time. It's for RTD. Adrian Campfield for TSA Racing with Apex, going to be lining up on 5th. Probably the guy if I were to put money on, I would probably put it on Campfield to win this race too, if I'm honest. He's going to be sharing row 3 with George Whitehouse for Calamity. Good double points finish for them on the first race of the season. They'll be looking to keep that up. Behind is Jono Holmes, who he had the fastest lap last race, so he's definitely got the pace. If he can just keep out of trouble, he could be another one that could easily win this race. Probably the biggest success story, I think, of the first race is Kasper Michalek. Yeah. Somewhat unlucky from qualifying, and then good performance in race 1. Terence Greg's going to be lining up 9th, ahead of the super sub Sven de Vries. I mean, money on Campfield, but Sven's got to be the favourite here. Behind him is Arjen van Putten and Gerrit de Vries, both strong race 1. Dawood Krupa going to be looking to make some progress from Mouse 1 ahead of Mashashik. Then Sandeep Singh in 15th. What can he do after race? Rick Van Doorn for Mad Otter is going to join him on 16th place ahead of Mateusz Zabinski and Frank Hamming. Francesco Morante and Hayden Rhodes going to round out the top 20. Following them is Simone Iannacco and Samuel Bentley, who's fallen behind a few people on the formation lap, as he's going to be pulling into the pits, actually. Samuel Bentley with no front wing, so he's going to have to start from the pit lane.
Oh, we got Jensen as well, off the circuit as well, so it looks like it's between Bentley and Janssen. That instant there as Janssen just rejoins the track. Sorry to cut you off there.
In 23rd.
Oh, car spun. There's a car spun. Pinska's spun on the last corner. He's done a Montoya from 2006. He's actually spun going up to the grid and now lining up now.
Tony Janssen in 26th. He's making a run for the grid, but Carvalho is going to be 24th ahead of Maleka. Tony Janssen is going to make his way through the grid. Saraceno 27th. Dionysus Faros in 28th ahead of Paul Holt, James Pinsker, and Sem Wong. Sem Wong starting the race with no front wing on my screen, so that's going to be interesting. We're going to have the one driver start from the pit lane, but back up towards the front. Stephen Lexo, this delay sometimes can throw drivers off. Let's see as the lights are coming on now. 2, 3, 4, 5 revs rise, and away we go. And a good start from Lexo there. Good start from Klont in second, and a brilliant start from 5th place Philip Koenig. He's going to go around De Los Rios. De Los Rios getting swamped off the start there as Lexo takes the lead. Menno Klont right on his gearbox, and Lexo's given him the inside. Is Menno going to stick it down into turn 4? And we're going to have a... Through goes Menno Klont. Lexo's going to go back underneath him. Though as someone's off, that's Campfield. Campfield's off. Lexo retakes the lead ahead of Klont. Koenig, De Los Rios, Whitehouse, Holmes, and then the rest of the pack together as Sven de Vries and Terence Grec already attacking. Krupa's up to 10th already. Make that 9th. Someone's gone around in the background. But this is the reverse grid race start for you as Frank Hamming and Sem Wong have come together.
And Bentley's got a drive-through penalty as well. And there's a car off as well. Regotes is off. Makashik's off as well. It's a chaotic just like race 1. Frank Hamming's got issues as well, and so is Sem Wong as well, but he's lost his front wing. Back at the front, Lexo still defending from Menno Klont.
Quite as much as he's just shouting to himself, run away, but a good run through 11 and 12, and that's put Klont in the firing line of Koenig. And Miguel de los Rios has recovered back up to 4th, and George Whitehouse, and that's the breakaway group from this this opening lap. Holmes and Campfield battling away by themselves. And someone's round. That was a big one, Van Putten.
And Michalak as well. Michalak's got involved in contact there, and he's still got his front wing. It's difficult to see actually because the colour of the front wing there for Michalak. But yeah, a real punt down the inside on Van Putten actually, and completely spun around and dropped all the way down to 24th with Jensen right behind him.
Start from both the Mad Otter cars. They're up to 12th and 13th from 16th and 20th respectively. So Hayden Rhodes and Rick Van Doorn making the progress at the expense of some others. But back towards the front again, and Menno Klont looking like he means business on the back of Lexo. So just putting his car where it needs to be, not giving Menno Klont any more room than he, or any opportunities other than, you know, ones that Menno's going to earn himself. Koenig's there, De Los Rios right on his gearbox. George Whitehouse in just a touch of open space, and then Holmes, apologies, and Adrian Campfield going to make up the top 7. We're going to have a 7-way train for the lead any second now. There's Menno Klont looking left, looking right. Stephen Lexo defending well, though. Koenig, he's going to be looking to try and get a run out of turn 12 like he did last lap. There's Menno Klont looking like he's dropping off of Lexo just a touch to maybe carry more speed through here and get the run. Okay. As drivers don't have DRS yet, but here comes Miguel De Los Rios down the inside of Philip Koenig. Koenig running him tight, pulls back across, brakes later, and Philip Koenig running out. Philip Koenig's gone round into the wall. That's going to be some damage. He's kept his front wing, but that's going to be a lot of places lost because you have to wait for a gap in the traffic, and that's going to feel like it's never going to come. It's, you know, like waiting on a busy junction. As Philip Koenig down outside the top 20 now. Him well and truly out of the race for the win here, but that's going to take the car out of ahead of Miguel De Los Rios, so he's going to be in third looking to gain. But Klont still piling the pressure on as Klont's got the run to the left very early coming out of turn 3. Almost like he's saying, if you want the inside, go for it. So Lexo seems to be comfortable on the outside of turn 4 there, which good overtaking spot turn 4 just after a DRS zone and a relatively big braking zone.
Spin for Krupa. He's another mistake this event. He's now down to 13th, maybe 14th as Malika looks down the inside of him as well. But Krupa is doing really well. Just lost it all by himself. No contact at all, just completely spun it by himself. As Sven de Vries also made a move actually for P7 as well. He's got past Terence Gretsch. He's got a great battle in front. We've got Whitehouse in P4. He runs a little bit wide. John Holmes there in P5, and Campfield now down to 6. So interesting stuff. As I think Holmes actually had a bit of wet tarmac there.
He's trying to go around the outside, but Whitehouse has the shorter run. But as a result of all of this, the top 3 seem to have broken away just a hair, and now the drivers are all going to be having DRS, so going to be looking for some moves being made here. None in the top lot. They all seem to be relatively evenly spaced out. And around, that's Kasper Michalek into the wall backwards very hard, and he bounces back into the racing line. He's managed to stay out of everybody's way, though, but Kasper Michalek not going to be repeating the race 1 heroics there for sure, as Philip Koenig now and Arjen van Putten, they tag. Both of them keep going, but it's a race too, David. Everyone's leaving it all out on the table.
They are, you know. There's no quarters given, is there? They're all going for it, and rightly so. But as Klont, I've just noticed got a great run coming out of turn 2. And he's now alongside Lexo with DRS. Is he going to try and make the move now? Yes, he does. He makes the move down the inside and takes the lead, Menno Klont. And look at DRS around the outside of Lexo going through turn 4. That's a brave bit of passing. Can he make that stick? Lexo runs wide onto grass.
Oh, Lexo!
Oh, and he just saved it as well. So interesting
and George
stuff
Whitehouse
down there as well. Menno Klont takes the lead for Crossfire in this race 2, ahead now of De Los Rios and ahead now of George Whitehouse, who takes P3. So tremendous stuff.
Campfield and Sven de Vries. Campfield got a cheeky move in on Lexo after Lexo had rejoined. Lexo then went back underneath, and Sven de Vries tried to follow him through, and Campfield just slammed the door shut right on the nose of Sven de Vries. Those two almost making contact. De Vries taking to the grass in avoidance. But that's going to be an interesting battle between those two. Both very aggressive drivers, give no quarter as Sven de Vries hits that big bump again at turn 12 and runs out wide. Is that going to give Grech an opportunity? I don't think it will quite, but back up towards the front. Remember the fight in race 1 between Klont and De Los Rios? Get ready for round 2, this time featuring George Whitehouse.
Yeah, and a lot more points at stake as well. For
big move from Campfield. Oh,
wow.
that was a bit ambitious from Campfield into the second to last corner, made contact with Lexo, and Lexo off the track. Grech makes a place, and
look who capitalised. De Vries is through. He's passed the whole lot of them now, so he is going to be on the march now towards his leading 4.
Speaking of De Vries's, you've got, look at to the back of this train, you've got the 2 Mad Otter cars and Sandeep Singh. They're coming up along with Gerrit De Vries. Gerrit's having a really good run in this race. He's now going to be challenging Lexo as the 2 Mad Otter cars looking to go into battle with each other. Hayden Rhodes with a huge dive, and he hits Gerrit De Vries
And
Hayden Rhodes
contact as
looking
well
for a pass
again.
for his teammate, and oh, that was clumsy from Hayden Rhodes. And look at this, the honest is Faros. He started at the back of the grid, and he's now up into the points.
That's a tremendous run from
Oh,
Faros. But yeah,
crazy.
Hayden Rhodes with an absolute harpoon down the inside. You know, he's never going to stop that. He's going to enter New Zealand if he just carried on at that rate, because he was never going to stop for that corner. That is one thing for sure. And that will be certainly looked upon badly upon the stewards. I think he just completely missed his braking point and harpooned into the side of Gerrit de Vries.
Menno Klont's been given an inch. He's trying to take a mile right here, setting green sector's personal best for Menno Klont as he's trying to get away from De Los Rios, who's got his mirrors full by the battling duo of Whitehouse and the man who set the purple sector 1, Jonathan Holmes. So these guys, they seem to be making hay while the sun's shining. Menno's trying to run away, but speaking of people who are going fast, dropping back to 11th place, fastest lap of the race last time by for David Krupa. You can tell this guy's got the pace, if he can just put it together, he'd be able to make some serious progress as he's looking up onto the back of Sandeep Singh and Rick Van Dorn. So Van Dorn up in 9th, he's having a really good run in the second race.
Singh now looking down the inside of Rick Van Dorn to go into turn 1 as
Van Dorn's lost it! Oh, Krupa!
Oh wow, that's a really
That's
unfortunate
huge.
incident, particularly for Krupa there, because he had literally nowhere to go whatsoever. And that was a DNF for Krupa. Really unfortunate for him. Rick Van Dorn will have to go into pits to change that front wing. So with Mad Ice Simracing looking so good, go for good points finish. It's all just falling apart from underneath him. It's just really, really unfortunate for both of those guys.
Look who takes advantage again, the Santon Motorsports car, the Honestist Faros.
Yeah.
Santon with only one car here today, and the Honestist is going to hopefully make it count and bring home some points. He's currently running in 11th with a bit of a gap to Gerrit de Vries behind, and Giuseppe Saracino, who's running well again for the Academy team, up in 10th. It's always good to see those cars running well.
Yeah, you know, so, you know, and it just goes to show, you know, you can come into a league, come into a community like GPVWC, do a couple of races, and obviously get the opportunity to race well, and then you can be shown on a broadcast, you know, and prove that you're worthy of a seat at a team. You know, a great performance here from Saracino here, P10 at the moment, doing a great job, and being really, really consistent as well.
Speaking of consistent, Menno Klont holding the gap steady at just over a second, but in behind, De Los Rios trying everything to stay out of the clutches of George Whitehouse, who looks like he's moved away from Jonathan Holmes just a hair. So it could be Whitehouse on De Los Rios is the move potentially, as we're going to shoot out of turn 3, down with DRS open. George Whitehouse to the outside, brakes late. De Los Rios eases off the brakes, but he's overshot the apex. Whitehouse is going to get him back around the outside. Is he going to stay there? No. Good defending from De Los Rios. But here comes Holmes. This will be brave if he tries it and wisely backs out. Very smart racer, Jonathan Holmes.
And if these three keep going at it, sorry, Mike, but if these three keep going at it, De Vries and Campfield's going to be all over them. So this could be potentially a 5-car battle for P2 as Holmes is now looking around the outside as Whitehouse defends into this heavy braking zone and the exit as well. But it looks like Whitehouse defending admirably here from Jonathan Holmes. But Holmes again getting the run around the outside as De Vries and Campfield closes in.
No disrespect to De Los Rios, Whitehouse and Holmes, but I think Sven de Vries and Adrian Campfield are going to catch them whether they like it or not. And again, with the two super aggressive drivers at the back of that train, it's going to be really interesting to see how de Vries and Campfield make their way through. But Rios has been given a slight reprieve, and he's got a little bit of a gap back to George Whitehouse, who's maybe having the mirrors full of Jonathan Holmes, but then behind Jonathan Holmes is not going to be a comforting sight for a sim racer with Sven de Vries and Adrian Campfield, arguably the two most take no prisoners of the top level guys in this championship, and just bearing down on you is not going to be a settling feeling. And Terence Grech running well in 7th. He's just kind of minding his own business. He's going to look to pick up any scraps that fall from this table, but no, Klont he's got the right sort of temperament for this, is Menno, so as long as nothing untoward happens, he could be walking away with a victory today.
Well, he's made an error somewhere because De La Rios is caught up by about half a second, but he's still got that 1 second gap, which is enough, you know, to be. I think it's always enough to be comfortable with You could just
1 second is DRS range, so as
Yeah.
long as you keep them out of DRS range, they can't really touch you. But DRS range is that's going to be a problem for George Whitehouse and Jonathan Holmes, because we saw how late Sven de Vries was on the brakes in the first race, and if he can just DRS up to the back of these guys in the next zone, he could chuck a move in at turn 13. Down in the lower points, I think that's someone's dropped out of 15th and been replaced by Pinsker, Van Putten, and Michalak.
And I don't mean to disrespect to anybody else around the grid, but I think Whitehouse has been seriously impressive this race too. You know, he's got all these really, really quick guys who's proven themselves over many, many years of sim racing, and you got this with respect to a young guy with wide shoulders on his hands. You know, he's obviously talented, and he's really shown up really well in this race too here today, with De La Rios not able to get away at all, and Holmes not really able to put any moves on him either. He's really holding his own, and with particularly he's got 3 guys following behind him, he's been really, really impressive.
Indeed, Whitehouse is definitely one to watch here, as now we have a battle or an overtaking attempt lining up. Sandeep Singh's lining up Stephen Lexo. Lexo again chooses not to defend the inside and gives Sandeep a lot of room there. There's Stephen Lexo. I think he's thinking big picture, you know, losing 1 point is better than losing 6 or 7. So Stephen Lexo looking to bring the points home for Razor.
Tell you one thing that's not going to change though is this. Look at this group now. You got Mena being reeled in now by De La Rios at the moment. So you have now got a 6-car train for the lead. This is superb stuff, isn't it? I mean, we knew it was going to be good this year at Formula Challenge with the quality of grid that we have and it being so close. But this, just having it live in front of our eyes now, it is superb to see.
True, some of these drivers we expected to be here, but certainly I think De Los Rios and George Whitehouse, season assessment, are definitely punching well above their weight and looking competitive here.
Sorry about that. Sorry to wince like that, but I saw Koenig go off the track and Pinsker nearly went into the back of him, but both Go Team cars go past Koenig as a result of the mistake, and that means that Go Team now have a car in the points, and they'll be looking to make it both cars in the points at this rate. They're doing quite well too. Behind them, P19. Zabinski has gone off at turn 12 and has DNF from this race with a big smack into the wall there from Zabinski. So that has ended his race with a plum, and it's not good for him. So we'll see him in 2 weeks' time at Malaysia. But unfortunate for him, he's not had the best of events, that's for sure.
There was briefly Giuseppe Saracino who's caught onto the back of Stephen Lexo, but then lost a bit of time through the final couple of corners. But not settling for even a P10. He's going for more, and credit to him. Just a little bit further back, Garrett de Vries under pressure from Francesco Morante. So Morante's going for it. That's a late move. Very well done from Francesco Morante. If he can hold it around the outside here. Oh no! He's not left quite enough room and chopped off de Vries. De Vries is on the racing line. Good job for Garrett from getting out of the way there, but crazy battle. Morante's in the wall on the other side. Koenig's gone through. Michalak's gone through. He's back up into the points. It's absolute craziness down in the lower reaches of the mid-teens and so. And then you jump back to the leaders. Oh, Jonathan Holmes made a mistake. Holmes made a mistake out of turn 12. Here comes Sven de Vries. He's going round the outside. He's going to brake late. He's going to try and hold it. Sven de Vries round the outside of Jonathan Holmes.
That's a tremendous move. That's just showing Sven's class, isn't it? I mean, he capitalised on the move. Obviously, he had the overspeed on him, as Campfield's now looking for a move on Jono as well, and makes the move. But Sven there really, really putting a marker down, isn't he, on this race? And obviously, you'll be seeing in other divisions this year. This is just pretty much a one-off drive for Sven, but that is just showing why he's in such a high lead. I think he's in Super Cup this year, isn't he? As Holmes is now trying to make a move back on Campfield.
Behind these guys. 9th and 10th, Stephen Lexo and Giuseppe Saracino. Saracino going to the inside of turn 1, and he's made it. And he's stayed on. Yep, good move. Giuseppe Saracino into 9th in the Academy car.
Oh, as Malaika for P12 has whacked the ball. I was just about to say, I mean, this is the pinnacle of the Formula Challenge, in my opinion. Just look at this battle for P12 onwards. Look at that train. What's that, 8 cars? In one long line of cars, isn't it? 4, 5, 6, 7. Sorry, 7 cars in this long track. No, it is 8 cars. As we see Van Putten now trying to make the move now on Malaika, as Malaika's got damage after hitting the wall on the final corner. But Van Putten runs wide as Koenig now trying to capitalise on that mistake himself. But What a great battle. It's all through, up and down the field. It's just loads of battles all the way through, and this is literally non-stop. It is magnificent, isn't it?
It's great to watch. I mean, you've got people like Kasper Michalek, third place in the first race. If you go wrong here, he's stuck back in this battle in 17th. So you can see how close a lot of this grid is. You've got Go Team there with both cars up towards the front of this battle in the lower reaches of the points. So I think they'll be pretty pleased with scoring some. And Yannick Maleka, he's at the front of this second Razor car, so they've got 10th and 12th right now.
They have.
Front George Whitehouse, that looks like he's lining a move up to me on Miguel de los Rios. He's going to try and get the exit. Oh, look at the difference in apex speed from Whitehouse. He almost had to back off or to not hit de los Rios. But de los Rios, they're using DRS, but using it defensively. George Whitehouse lining him up on the outside. Very difficult to pass around the outside here. De los Rios holds it. Rios is his best friend is Menno Klont, because Klont's giving him the DRS. He needs to just defend from Whitehouse's DRS. Look at this. This is cheeky from George Whitehouse. He's looking every which way. They are starting to come up on Ragoza, the back marker, so hopefully he won't have any effect on this. But Sven de Vries through and fourth. He's reeling these top three guys in.
He really is, yeah.
They don't count Sven out yet, but Whitehouse dropped off a little bit. Menno seems to run quite a wide line through the run from turn 10 to turn 11. It almost seems like he's losing a couple tenths a lap there, but we'll see as Whitehouse runs wide. De los Rios, and thankfully for Whitehouse, de Vries isn't quite close enough to make a move there, but look at them all closing up under braking. De los Rios, he's looking feisty. Pose here is de los Rios right on his gearbox as they come through the final turn.
He got a bit of a wiggle there though, didn't he? He hit the curb on the inside, got a little bit. It didn't get as good a run as he probably would have hoped. But look at the traffic ahead. He got 3 cars actually going towards turn 1 now, and it's battle 5. Well, you could say 8 cars in many respects because Sandeep's now tagged along now, and there's battle for 6, 7, 8 between Holmes, Gretsch, and Sandeep Singh. But look at this, 5 cars now. You could probably pretty much say all within under the same blanket pretty much as
Whitehouse. He tried to dummy to the inside. He tried to sell de los Rios a dummy, and I thought he did for a minute there. As de los Rios looked like he went in a bit deep, but got it stopped. It's going to be loving that he's seeing them side by side everywhere, and Sven de Vries is going to be loving that he's seeing them side by side everywhere. So
and there's 2.5 laps to go now. This is going to be it's going to be action packed. I mean, there's 5 cars there. I still can't predict a winner. I really can't. It could literally any one of these 5 guys I reckon at the front could end up winning this.
Yeah, because Campfield's right on the back of them now. It truly is a 5-car train. We'll see at the end of sector 2 the gap from 1st to 5th, but I can tell you from looking at it, it's not much. Through 11 and through 12. And all running wide again, that's George Whitehouse, and de Vries might make him pay for it. Sven's closing, and we know how late he is on the brakes. It looks like de los Rios is a lot stronger than Menno Klont through the second half of the lap. Yeah. But through the first turn, Menno pulls out enough that he can stay ahead.
I think what could affect Miguel as well is the dirty air, because I do think that KC car, or both of the KC cars, are actually quicker than the Crossfires. Or was contact down the front straight air between 2 back markers as well. I don't know what they're doing, but they got to watch in their mirrors because they do not want to get in the way of this battle because I know they should be.
They're having their own fight at the moment. They're outside of blue flag range, and
absolutely. But
if they can keep their pace up, then they won't. Then they'll be able to stay on the lead lap. But it's going to be hard. Whoa, de Vries going for it around the outside. You know, Sven's the sort of person he's going to keep his nose in there.
Oh, Whitehouse there. Look at that. Look at
Whitehouse runs wide.
There we go. And Campfield contact.
Nudge. Rangers Whitehouse. Campfield into the wall. Whitehouse into the wall. Adrian Campfield, a front wing missing. Jonathan Holmes gets involved. Yes, Campfield's lost the front wing, and he's going to understeer wide. George Whitehouse back in the barrier. He's lost the front wing again. So that's going to hand places to the likes of Steven Lexo and Arjen van Putten. And that's going to have taken now down the lead group to just 3 as they go around Samuel Bentley.
And that's all of a sudden, it's a 3-car race here with 1.5 laps to go. You've got Klont there, you've got de los Rios just runs wide, and de Vries has got the run.
Here comes
got the run with DRS. He's going to try the same move. He's probably got the move before the corner, in all honesty. Look at that. De Vries takes the move.
That was brave from De Vries to try and cut across the nose of De Los Rios to prevent De Los Rios from going late. And now, can Menno hold on? It's
going to be 1 lap to go now, so this is going to be really, really exciting finish to this race. I think it's out of 2 now. I think it's out of... Can Menno hold on to this lead with Sven de Vries reeling in this gap? He's got a 1 second gap now as we enter the final lap. But look at the battle behind as well. It's still raging on.
He's getting caught up in it. Looks like Holmes is ahead. Terence Grech is going to... Yep, Bentley moving out to the side. Good back marking there. Hopefully Sandeep Singh will be able to make it through as well. And it's a good on! De Los Rios! He's gone!
Wow.
Out of 3rd place, Miguel De Los Rios. I don't know. I think that was all by himself. He just went off. And
I think he touched the grass as he entered the corner, I think.
Place. That's going to have handed Jonathan Holmes a podium on a plate, and Sandeep Singh there running onto the grass. So both KC cars really having off moments in the first half of this lap. But as there they go past Ragosa and Paul Holt and Yannick Maleka passing Van Putten, Lexo passing Campfield. So Campfield staying out and sticking it to the end with no front wing. Same with Whitehouse, so they're going to round out the top 10 unless something happens. Back towards the front, De Vries, he's to Klon. If it's going to come, it's going to come in the final 2 corners, I reckon.
No, look, De Vries is closing in. De Vries is closing in, but say the gap just enough. So Klon has now just got the final 3 corners now to hold on to this victory.
Yeah, he does. As through they go, and oh, big off! That's Jonathan Holmes. He's disconnected from 3rd place.
Wow.
That's horrible. But Menno Klont ran the final corner. His teammates just had some woes, but Menno Klont is gonna take the win. Sven de Vries taking 2nd, so a 1st and 2nd for Sven. 3rd place is going to go to Terence Grech, but just ahead of Sandeep Singh. Miguel De Los Rios finishes in P5. Giuseppe Saracino, great run for the Academy driver. He finishes 6th and really quite close, especially to Sandeep, only 8 seconds off the lead. Stephen Lexo converts pole into a 7th place. The wingless Adrian Campfield's going to be 7th. Jonathan Holmes is out, and big change. Yannick Maleka is up to 10th. 9th, sorry. Paul Holt's gone for it, and Paul Holt, he was 10th. He's now lost it to James Pinsker, who started on the back row of the grid. Maleka's going to finish 9th in a double top 10 for Razor. James Pinsker is going to be 10th. Paul Holt's going to be 11th. The front wingless George Whitehouse holds on for 12th ahead of Van Putten. Francesco Morante 14th, and Rodrigo Carvalho a double points finish for the Academy team. That's going to be very happy Menno Klont after that. Dionysis Faros are quite unlucky. I'm not sure what happened to him, but he finished 16th after running solidly in 11th for so long. Tony Janssen in 17th. And Jonathan Holmes still dropping down as people come through, but disconnecting from 3rd place with 3 turns to go. That's absolutely horrible. As Hayden Rhodes, he's going to finish 18th. And Philip Koenig, a missed opportunity there from Philip, down, starting up in 4th. He's finishing 19th in the end of the 2nd race. Splitting the Mad Otter cars. Hayden Rhodes and Rick Van Doorn both running strong at points. They're going to finish 18th and 20th. So from those guys, considering what they were doing earlier. Jonathan Holmes going to be classified 21st despite the last lap DNF, and Alexander Ragosa and Samuel Bentley, they're going to run out your finishers, with the retirements being Kasper Michalek, Simon Iannaco, Gerrit de Vries, Frank Hamming, Matej Sabinski, David Krupa, Bartolomei Machacek, and Sem Wong for the 2nd race in a row is retired. So a high rate of attrition on this one, David. But a brilliant result from Menno Klont.
Oh, it's amazing. You know, I'm genuinely speechless. So I'm absolutely delighted for Menno. Gutted for Jono. Absolutely gutted for Jono. But I've never seen anyone disconnect with 3 corners to go, I must admit. So, you know, I'm absolutely gutted for Jono. But what an exciting race. You know, you can't take nothing away from the people involved in the race. Sven de Vries there, another magnificent drive to get P2. Gretchen, you think Sandeep Singh, all the trouble he had in race 1, P4 in race 2 with De La Rios, they're getting P5 there as well. That's a strong showing there from KC Racing there for sure as well. So really, really exciting race there. So Yeah, but I hope that's a great taste of what things to come this year. Obviously, this is round one. You know, of 15 rounds of this, so it's going to be really, really exciting.
It's. I mean, that's the drama in that second race was crazy. I mean, these race twos, they're always like it with the somewhat jumbled up grid and people who've had a bad race one and people starting out of position left, right, and center. But six-way fight for the lead, and I mean, Whitehouse and Campfield, they got tangled really unfortunately, and it dropped them out of it. And with the horrific disconnect, you know, that's going to be heartbreaking. You know, especially if, let's say he comes down to the end of the championship and he's single points behind. Yeah. He's going to be livid regarding that. But
yeah,
that does present opportunity though with guys like the two Razor GP cars. Stephen Lexo, admittedly, he did start from pole, but converted it into P7. And then Yannick Maleka, who started quite along, I think, either in the back end of the teens or low 20s. He's finishing 9th, so a great result for those two. And James Pinsker coming from the very last row of the grid to finish 10th. So
that very strong performance there from Pinsker, though. I didn't expect that at all. You know, but it just shows how chaotic these race twos are. And you can still, even if you're back of the grid, you can still pick up some decent points. There's always hope for everybody to get a good result, and Pinsker proves it there. So very well done to him, and to everybody who gets in the point, who got in the points in the event as well. Very well done to you guys, particularly the new members, the new drivers who take part in this series. It is very, very good to see.
We got a few drivers now lining up for some interviews. Let's grab the first one here. And so we start off with the man who won the first race, finished second in the second race, Sven de Vries.
Good evening.
Last minute deal we hear for you being on the grid here today, but how did that go for you?
I mean, looking at the results, I think it went reasonably well. It was a little at last minute. I happened to be home, and I knew it was the first round of the season. I figured it'd be good prep for a Super Cup for me too. Plus, these cars are a lot of fun. There's a lot of talented drivers in there, so it's always good for me to see how I compare to those good drivers. So it was last minute. You know, thankful for Patrick and Philip to give me a chance in their team. So thank you to them. Great race in race one. Shame for Jonathan Holmes what happened with the back markers. I think we would have had a great race to the flag. We had a good battle, and I'd really pushed to be able to keep up to him. I don't know if I would have been able to pass him or not, but I would have certainly liked to try rather than win it the way it happened. So sorry to him, and big respect on the drive for race one.
I've got to be honest, Sven. Your I think it was on the last or the first lap of the first race. Your double pass coming out of turn 12 on the run down to turn 13 on Terrence and Menno. That was probably one of the best moves. I mean, I know this is the first proper round of the year, but that's got to be in contention for pass of the year shortly. Come the end of the season, that was fantastic there. But like, you're the sort of driver that will go for those moves and.
Thanks. No, I appreciate it. It was sort of, you know, on the spot. I saw them have a bad run coming out of those S's, and I was like, oh shit, I better do something with this opportunity. I thought I had a good pass on Menno too. I was a little unfortunate that Menno went off as we were above on TeamSpeak, and I had promised him I would not get in his way whatsoever. So that was a bit unfortunate, but yeah, that was a fun move. That's some good battles in race two as well. So definitely really enjoyed myself after an absence of, I don't know, half year.
That's good to see, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that after seeing that is going to be excited to watch you duke it out in the Super Cup series. That's on Tuesday, I believe, right? Yeah, Tuesday.
Yeah.
Should be good fun. I think there's a lot of fast guys in there too. I don't know if we quite have the car just yet to be at the front too, but if the car's right, then I think we can definitely be up front there. And you know, we've learned some good places, some good spots today to see where we can pull off some moves. We've dealt with changing weather conditions, so I feel like I'm prepped pretty well for next week for Super Cup.
All right, well, fantastic. Thank you, Sven. We're going to move on now to the next interview. I believe David has got the man who won the second race, Menno Klont.
We have indeed. So, Menno, what an interesting return for you for Formula Challenge that is, and the debut obviously for Crossfire. competition as well. I mean, winning race 2 like that, obviously, you had all the pressure for most of the race from Miguel and Sven at the end and the chasing pack. So you must be a very relieved man to get the job done in the end there.
Well, yeah, that's indeed the case. Yeah, I practiced a lot in the winter period, and yeah, you just try to get a good base of the performance and of the car, and yeah, it went pretty well in testing. Must say, we went to race 1, and I was just caught out by some mistakes on my own, and then I was saying to myself, like, hold on, you need to get decent points, and yeah, I still got P8. And I think afterwards that was the key to a race 2 victory. I had a good battle with I believe Mr. Lexlow, and yeah, when I passed him, I managed to pull a bit of a gap, but it was not big, and I was quite nervous. But yeah, in the end, yeah, I won. So yeah, it's pretty amazing to start a season like this. Of course, you hope to do this, but yeah, if it actually becomes reality, it's really good.
It's genuine amazing, because I was not, we obviously discussed a lot before the event, Menno, and I was not expecting such a good performance as we discussed. But I'm really proud of you, and obviously you got a long way to go this season as well. But now, obviously, I did actually mention to you as well, we'll be stronger in race 2s, it looks like, but our pace in race 1 as well was really good as well. I mean, obviously it's only the first round, but do you get a general consensus now of where you're going to be in the season regarding performance and results, or get a rough idea, or what the pecking order is going to be?
No, I think I've got no idea. I mean, we saw people or drivers who are really strong, and drivers who are a bit off pace. And with off pace, it's only a few tenths. But yeah, during the season, a lot can change, and track by track, a lot can change as well. I mean, 2 weeks we've got Malaysia. That's a whole different track, of much wider track. And I think you might see a few other people or drivers that were not on top today might be shining there. So yeah, I'm not sure what the pecking order is. I just hope that I will be in the top group, and if the top group is 3 people, then yeah, I hope to be there. If the top group if those are 8 or 9 drivers, I still hope to be there, and that's the aim. And then a consistent season. Yeah, I think that's what should be the aim for me and for every driver in the FC.
Well, I'll leave it there, and obviously we're going to have a nice celebration afterwards, I think, Menno, in Discord, I think. But has Mike got anything else to say add to this?
Sorry, I took the wrong time to have a drink there. Menno, just before we finish with you, you're heavily involved with the academy team. Is it doubly impressive for you then to take the win and have both the academy cars doing as well as they did in that second race?
Oh, actually, didn't check where they finished, so you're just telling me. So I actually don't know where they finished, but
Giuseppe was 6th and only 8 seconds off the win, and Rodrigo finished 15th.
Yeah, well, let's say they're driving for the academy scene, academy team, and yeah, they only get race by race contracts. So yeah. Of course, the idea behind the team is to promote them to a full-time seat. So if there is an option for one of those drivers to get a permanent seat in FC, then I hope they can get that. And of course, the team will cooperate if another team would be interested to hire them, because that's the idea behind the team. But I'm pretty relieved that they did well in race 2, because they only got one moment to shine, or actually 2 moments to shine, but you need to do it. And yeah, if they finished in the top 10, I think it should be a good indication that in future races they can do well with a good setup, and of course in a lot of testing.
Hopefully we can see both of those guys transition to a full-time seat, and congratulations to yourself, Menno, for that race 2 result. As now we're going to move on to a guy who I said a couple of times on the broadcast I felt was a bit robbed of pole position, but nonetheless, Terence Grech, still a very strong event from you in the first round of the season. Is this kind of throwing your hat in for potentially a Drivers' Championship run?
I hope so. Well, to be honest, till yesterday I wasn't that happy because my pace wasn't that great. But yeah, managed to finish both races in the podium, second and third place. Yeah, hopefully we'll be a contender for the championship. I hope so.
Say, in qualifying then, was it, do you feel like it was just a case of being on the right tire at the right time? Because you had the one lap to do and you purple sectored sector 1 and 2. So do you think if you'd have gotten a clear sector 3, that would have been on pole?
Yeah, I think so, because unfortunately I did a mistake. Because in the second last corner, there was still a bit wet there. And yeah, I just went a bit wide, and I think I lost everything over there, unfortunately. So yeah, but second place, still happy.
Very well done then. So we're going to move on now to our final interviewee of the broadcast. David, this is George Whitehouse.
Yeah, so a very, very definitely a performance type with a huge amount of potential there, George. And we obviously saw you do it at gymnastics as well during the event. You know, it's a very interesting incident there as well. But you know, what was it, P5 in the first race, and obviously had the incident there in the second race as well. But some very, very promising pace there from yourself, George. Was that something you coming into the event was expecting, or you know, was it just sort of more unexpected and you was in the right place at the right time?
Nah, I mean, I always knew I'm always one of those people who likes to be competitive. So I knew when I joined this series that I didn't want to be, like 12th, 13th. I wanted to be in the top 8, and that's what I set myself the target to do in qualifying. Luckily, well, qualifying was a bit of a gamble, I would say. So, and then into race 1, because everybody on the right side of the grid at the start of the race got just shafted it because of the wet line on dry tires. So I actually dropped down to 16th at the start, but thank you just for myself, really, just for avoiding all the incidents that occurred throughout the race. And of course, I did my gymnastics moment, which very not anticipating that to happen. But then somehow when I landed back on the car, I don't know what it was. It actually felt better than before I had my incident. So that was remarkable. And then going into race 2, it was all right. I just held my ground to P3. I didn't particularly want to be aggressive at the start, and then throughout the racing, it was all going great, keeping my head and feet in the right gear, and then tried to make the move for P2. And I don't know, I'll have to look back at it, but I think it was just like everybody, they can all agree on this one, trying to get the best place possible. And I think it was just a racing incident, in my opinion. But there we go. Looking forward to round 2. Well,
it'd be certainly looked at. We could catch it on the broadcast. It's a difficult one to judge at the time because obviously quite a quick corner, turn 5 and stuff. But you've definitely set the bar high for yourself, I think, there. And I think a lot of people was impressed by you this evening, George. And to say, obviously it's a good experience for you this year, I think, at Calamity MTR. So we wish you all the best for the season ahead, George. Obviously, we'll be keeping in contact as well. And I say we'll see you at the next round.
Yes, thank you.
And there we have it. Then that's going to conclude the first round of the 2019 GPVWC Formula Challenge here from David. And fantastic start to the season. And if the next 15 rounds are even half as good as this, it's going to be an amazing championship on our hands.
Trust me, it's a great benchmark, a great platform to work on for the whole of GPV. I think that race 1, obviously a bit chaotic at times, but great racing. And everywhere you look, there was always racing. That's the level we want to set at GPV. And of course, if anyone was watching tonight, I say check out the description below and see how you can get involved yourself if you're not already. So it's a really, really interesting season ahead, I think. And I say for FC, it looks like it's going to be an absolute cracker.
Indeed it is. And I hope you all enjoyed Melbourne, because next week 3 more series are coming here. You've got the Super Cup coming here on the Tuesday, where you can see the likes of Sven de Vries duking it out. Then on the Wednesday, we have the brand new to GPVWC series, the Super League Lights, which is kind of like the name suggests, a light version of the Super League, where you got drivers like myself taken to the grid there. So that should be interesting. And then you have the big boys, the top tier, if you like, the Super League, coming to this track a week on Thursday. So that will be great to look forward to. And shout out today to our fabulous cameraman, Argo Teder, and for David Carter and myself.
Goodbye.